Namaste, Tashidale. Good morning, good evening, everyone. A hearty welcome to all of you on this auspicious day of Choe Khor Duchen. Before we welcome our Venerable Teacher, I'd like to please share some house rules for this session. I'm going to paste the list in the chat box below and your request to go through them. Choe Khor Sum Ling is delighted to host this session, which will be led by a very special teacher, Venerable Tenzin Namjong. Venerable Tenzin Namjong is an American Buddhist monk, born and raised in Hawaii, took ordination with His Holiness the Dalai Lama in the year 2007, and later Venerable moved to India. Venerable Namjong is a senior teacher at CKSL and is currently pursuing his Geshe studies at the Sarah J. Monastic University in Bailakuppe. We're using this auspicious day to launch a brand new series of practical Dharma teachings, which will help us transform a suffering life into happiness. With that, I ask you to give your full attention to Venerable Namjong in order to fully benefit from today's program. Venerable Namjong.
I don't even have the first realization of Lamrim, that of the precious human rebirth. And so if you're like me, then having some very specific directives and procedures to help integrate Dharma into your life, I've found very helpful. And I wanted to share some of that with you and hope it will also be helpful for you. Okay? So as Shanti mentioned, that we're hoping that this will be a series of teachings that are going to draw on this kind of more practical basis. And this will continue for a number of weeks. Yeah, bear that in mind. And these will be up, the videos afterwards. So in case you know people that weren't able to tune in live, they can watch afterwards. And if you, in the coming weeks, aren't able to make one teaching, then please review the video before the next one so you can stay afloat and stay on track with the rest of us. Okay? All right. Okay. So let's start first. In general, this teaching that Lama Zopa Rinpoche compiled, the Transforming a Suffering Life into Happiness, is meant for our morning, actually right when we wake up. And it is intended for us to set our motivation for the day by reflecting on these various verses. Because this setting the motivation is the most important thing in everything that we do. So like the Buddha said in the Dhammapada, that all phenomena come from the mind. The mind is principle and a preliminary. If one brings up a good heart and speaks to someone, happiness follows like a shadow follows the body. So with all of our actions, then the most important determining factor for whether an action becomes virtue or non-virtue, dharma or non-dharma, isn't the action itself, right? Isn't that we're meditating or reciting mantra, but rather it's the motivation with which we undertake the action. So here too, even listening to a dharma teaching, let's first adjust our motivation. So please think that the purpose of my life is to benefit all sentient beings. And in particular, in order that I may be able to benefit sentient beings in the best way, I myself must first achieve the fullest state of my highest potential, which is that of complete enlightenment. And in order to achieve the state of enlightenment, I need to learn about the various teachings and practices that lead to enlightenment, and then put them into practice. And therefore, I'm going to listen to this Dharma teaching today in order that I may be able to learn and then put into practice all of the practices that lead to the state of enlightenment. And then after so doing, I'll be able to lead all sentient beings also to that enlightened state. Okay? All right. So, one thing that I uncovered and came across again and again as I started to, look through these, productivity gurus, a lot of them in Silicon Valley, they write all these blogs about how to be more productive in your day. And the theme that came up again and again is to have a morning routine, okay? And in general, also, it's very important to schedule our days as much as possible. So I remember in my high school, okay, we had a weight room, yeah? And on the wall of the weight room was a quotation, not by the Buddha, but an important one nonetheless. It says, by failing to prepare, we're preparing to fail. You understand? By failing to prepare, we're preparing to fail. Okay. So here, the thought is, yeah, we want to, like when I didn't have my schedule, and I was just kind of here in Martika, we go into a little bit of a vacation mode, right? The time is unstructured. You don't know what to do. And when you don't have a task and you don't have internal discipline like myself, then the mind will just tend to, well, let's say, not be as productive as we can. So as much as we can, we want to then, set up ahead of schedule, what we're going to do, our plan for the day. And so having a solid morning routine will help us, get our day off to the right start, get our juices flowing, and here, get our motivation well, so that then we can carry that throughout the rest of the day. Okay? So, I'll just share a bit of my morning routine. Okay? How does that sound? Yes? Interested? Okay. So I wake up, and then the first thing I do actually is in the Transforming Suffering Life into Happiness book. It's actually the multiplying mantras, which is on, I don't know, page 17, or it's further down in the book, right? But those multiplying mantras, where are they? Anyway, they're further down in the book. Let me just scroll through here, sorry. Yes, okay. It is on page 21 in the book, I think. In my book, at least, it's on page 21, where we have blessing the rosary, the mantra to multiply virtue, and so forth. Okay? So I do those first. Okay? And then, as His Holiness the Dalai Lama does, the first thing to do, and actually it's a precept of refuge, is to then offer our prostrations to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So here, I'm not sure if you had seen Lama Zopa Rinpoche's most recent advice about offering prostrations, but as many of you know, if you know from the 35 Buddhist practice, there are the merit multiplying mantras that we do when we prostrate. So one is Om Namo Manjushriya Nama Shushriya Nama Uttama Shriya Soha, okay? And then Chonen de Deshin Shepa Jachompa Yanaba Zobe Sangde Rinchin Gyalsana Chaselo, or just Deshin Shepa Rinchin Gyalsana Chaselo, okay? So these are in the 35 Buddhist practice, which I think most of you know, right? If you don't, we'll send the mantras out later. And then there's also the mantra Om Namo Bhagavate Ratna Ketu Radzaya Tathagata Arate Samay Sambudaya Tayata Om Radne Radne Maharadne Radna Bizay Soha. Okay? So I recite those. If you've done the Kopan course, normally what they do is they recite the mantra, one mantra per prostration. But in Lama Zopa Rinpoche's most recent advice, he says you can just recite it again and again if you don't have the time, right? And then, so I will recite each mantra, each of those 3 mantras with 1 prostration each, okay? And then prostrations to Shakyamuni Buddha, the founder. So there, it's Lama Tumba Chondin de Shinshaba Jachambayana Bazobe Sange, Pelgyaba Shaka Tupala Chaselo. And then there's the other mantra that actually was recommended also while we do circumambulation. If you've done a course with me, I see many of you were in my course at Roots. This was your homework to memorize, right? Onamo Dashidega Tri Kala Ratna Chaya Mama Pradaksha Supradaksha Sava Papam Vishuddhani Soha. Yes? Alexander knows. Okay. So those mantras together, it's like most incredible. I think you purify something like, I don't know, 700 million eons of negative karma. It's just mind blowing. So I'll do those. Probably I don't know, a total of 10 prostrations. Okay. Then I also make my bed. Okay. So put your bed nicely. It doesn't have to be like a hotel room, but just keep it quite nice. And so here actually 2 of those are from he was actually my classmate in university, but many of you might have heard of Tim Ferriss. He's one of these Silicon Valley productivity gurus, and he has this blog post about the 5 rituals that help him win the morning. And one of them is, to make your bed. So even just doing this, it's a simple thing, takes 2 minutes, but you've accomplished something already, and your room is neater, which is also something I'm trying to work on. And then, you have that sense of accomplishment. And then he also says to do just a little bit of exercise. He even says just 10 reps of something. So rather than doing push-ups, I do my long full-length prostrations. Okay. All right. So then what do we do after that? Start to meditate. Okay. So then sit down on a meditation cushion. And then I like to do just a few minutes of mindfulness of the breath meditation. So many of you know, many of you are familiar with this, but you basically, you sit in a comfortable meditation position, right? And then one way to start the meditation is to do a few more forceful exhalations, okay? And in those exhalations, you imagine that there is all the negativities, the negative emotions and so forth. They collect in your lungs in the form of black smoke. And as you exhale more forcefully, they leave. They form a cloud, and that cloud, on each subsequent breath gets further and further away and gradually dissipates without a trace into the sky. Then after you've done, some 3, 4, 5 of those forceful breaths, then just relax back into the natural breath as it is. So many of you know this method. I don't have to explain too much, but basically the natural breath as it is. So it's as if you're letting the breath itself breathe. Okay. And then you focus your attention on the sensations in the body as we inhale and exhale. So here, different traditions say different things. Some will say you focus on the abdomen, rising and falling as you breathe in and out. Some say you focus on this upper lip and nostril area. Some might feel the breath in the chest. So if you are already in an established kind of mindfulness of meditation practice, then you already have a spot picked out. Then you can continue with that. If you're new to the practice, you can just see where is most prevalent, those sensations for you, and continue with that. You can see what is works best for you. Okay? All right. So we do this also for beginners. It's helpful to count the breaths. So you inhale, exhale, count 1, inhale, exhale, count 2, and so forth. And then when you reach 10, you start over again at 1. But as we are trying to focus on the breath, if there's other appearances that come to the mind, be they external, like different sounds, or internal, like different thoughts coming up, then we don't engage with them. We don't continue the kind of internal chatter and commentary. But one helpful kind of analogy is just like drawing on the surface of a pond. When you draw on the surface, the very next second, that drawing dissolves back into the water. So similarly, if we don't engage with our thoughts, or we don't engage with sounds and so forth, then they'll naturally just dissolve back into the nature of the mind. Okay? So another helpful analogy that I like also is to think of the mind like a river, okay? Because sometimes when people start to do this mindfulness meditation, then they come back and say, oh, Namjong, my mind is so disturbed, so distracted, meditation doesn't work. Or this meditation doesn't work for me, I give up, okay? So, or they think that, all these thoughts are coming up and I have to somehow stop the thoughts. How do you stop the thoughts? They'll ask. And so here, our minds, okay, just like the river is constantly flowing, right? Our mind actually is constantly flowing with various thoughts. That's the nature of the mind. The so-called clear and knowing nature means that different thoughts, different perceptions, and so forth will appear in the mind. Okay, so the trick isn't to then stop the flow of thoughts. Okay, but most of the time, just like a river, if we just get so caught up, we'll get caught up in the current and get pulled down the river, right? So us too, if we engage in the chatter, then we'll also similarly just get so overwhelmed by the flow of thoughts. Okay, but the answer isn't then to somehow dam up the river or block the thoughts, right? But rather, if we, instead of being in the river, we just come to the bank of the river, and then we can watch the river go by. You understand? So we're not getting swept away. We're also not damming it. But we just watch it go by and then don't get swept away. So similarly, in our mindfulness practice, we have a focal point of the breath that we're trying to set up, right? And if there's no particular, thoughts or sounds coming, then we stay with the breath, right? But when a thought comes, we can notice that the thought is there, but we don't engage with it, right? So one way to think is, okay, the first thought is going to come. That's the nature of our mind, unless you've achieved shamatha, right? These first thoughts are going to come, but don't follow it with a second thought. You understand? Okay? So then by not engaging, then just like, sometimes here, I'm in the mountains of Nepal. When I do my meditation, there's a lot of crickets outside, right? So sorry if you live in a big city, there's no sound of crickets. But you see, that sound, it's there. But I'm not having this kind of aversion. So it's not pulling me from my meditation. And therefore, even though there's sound, there can be peace. You understand? So in the same way, although there could be a thought coming up, right? If we just let it dissolve back into the nature of the mind, it also doesn't have to distract us from our meditation. And therefore, it doesn't have to disturb our peace. Okay? All right. So we do that for some number of minutes. And here again, I always like to say that for those of you who are new to meditation, then we want to keep our sessions relatively short so that we end them while they're still going well. You understand? So here, even 5 minutes is good. So if you are doing the breath method, then maybe 31 breaths can be good. But I don't like to set a timer when I meditate. It's not nice. So just kind of sit there, be with your breath, and then while it's still kind of going well, then end that phase of the practice. Okay? All right. And then we switch. Okay, so basically also, you see, if you're doing different meditation sessions over the course of the day, maybe some of you later will do like 6-session Guru Yoga or Lama Chopa, something like this, then it's also helpful to do just a little bit of the mindfulness of the breath meditation to put your mind into a kind of calm and neutral state. But after the mind gets into that neutral state, we then try to actively arouse or evoke a virtuous state of mind. And that's what the purpose of these verses that Rinpoche has put together, this transforming a suffering life into happiness. Okay? So here, I've now opened and I'm on the first page. Okay? So you can follow along with me. Okay. So the method to transform a suffering life into happiness, including enlightenment. All right. So when we say method to transform a suffering life into happiness, okay, what we're actually talking about is transforming or modifying our motivation with which we undertake the actions, all the actions of the day, right? So one time, the great Indian master Atisha was asked, what is the differentiation? What is the difference between Dharma and non-Dharma, right? And basically, he said, he said many things. But one of them is the actions that are undertaken with the afflictions, like attachment, anger, ignorance, are non-Dharma, and those are going to cause the suffering in the lower realms. Okay, or more generally speaking, those are what will cause suffering. Okay, so here then, by transforming our motivation from one that is mostly attached, and particularly attached to the worldly concerns, thinking only about this life, to then transform it to a bigger and bigger motivation. First, the first part of this practice is the Lamrim, and you'll see we transform our motivation according to the so-called 3 capable beings, and then the great capable being, their motivation is that of a bodhicitta. And so therefore, we transform our suffering life into happiness by transforming our motivation to be, first, before we get into Dharma, our motivation is mostly non-Dharmic, thinking just about attachment to the 8 worldly concerns. So then, that's only going to cause suffering in the future. So then, we transform it first into the 3 motivations of the capable beings found in Lamrim, where those beings are primarily motivated by attaining the happiness of future lives, the happiness in nirvana, and then complete enlightenment. Okay? You understand? The method to transform our suffering life into happiness is about transforming our motivation from non-Dharma to Dharma. And then from Dharma, we have the three scopes, or the three capable beings, the three types of Dharma practitioners, and the great scope being the one who has bodhicitta as the motivation, which then becomes the means for achieving enlightenment. Okay. So therefore, at the beginning of each day, after you open your eyes, until enlightenment is achieved, and until death, and especially today, so that all the activities of your body, speech, mind, hearing, thinking, and meditating, as well as walking, sitting, sleeping, doing your job, and so on, do not become causes of suffering, and instead become causes of happiness, and especially that they become the causes to achieve Buddhahood. That is, that you transform them into a method for accomplishing benefit and happiness for all sentient beings. Here is a method for transforming the mind into holy Dharma, and especially into Bodhicitta. Okay? So here, yeah, very important to reiterate what we said at the outset of this teaching, right? That it is the motivation with which we undertake the action that determines whether an action is virtue or non-virtue, becomes the cause for happiness or suffering. And so you see here, many people, you know, they say, oh, Namjong, oh, you're so lucky, you're a monk, you have so much time for Dharma practice. I have to go to a job, I have to do all these things, you know, right? So here, when you have the motivation of bodhicitta, then all these things, walking, sitting, sleeping, doing your job, can become causes for enlightenment. Okay? So it's not that, you know, the fact that you are all with a job, I hope you still have a job. But anyway, it's not that because of your external circumstances that therefore you're somehow prevented to practice Dharma. Okay, don't think that. Okay, it all depends on your mind. And when you have this mind of bodhicitta, then all the things that normally might be considered worldly can become Dharma. And on the other hand, if you're like myself, even you're wearing these robes, you've shaved your head, right? Well, people might think, oh, Namjong, oh, right, such a great Dharma practitioner. But you don't know what's going on in my mind, you know, constantly attached to sense pleasures, chocolate, and watching whatever kind of videos, right? Then by the external alone, you can't tell if someone's a Dharma practitioner or not, okay? Has to be, you know, looking in the mind and looking at the motivation, right? Okay. So then we have this direct meditation on the graduated path containing all the important meanings. Oh, wait a minute. We have about 20 more minutes in session. Is that right?
We have time until
Hello.
Venerable.
We have time until what?
8 o'clock India time. So that's, yes, 20 more minutes. I'm sorry, we have almost an hour.
Oh, really? Okay, good.
We have 15 minutes.
Okay. I know I'm normally a bit verbose, but I didn't think my time was up this quickly. So next we have this direct meditation on the graduated path containing all the important meanings, written by Dorje Chang Losang Jinpa. Okay, so many of you also know, if you are students of Lama Zopa Rinpoche, he also recommends that we do at least one of these glance meditations on the whole entire Lam Rim at least once a day. Okay, and the thought is that by doing this, we plant the imprint of the entire path to enlightenment in our minds on a daily basis. Okay, and then over the years, you know, over the months and years, then we get more and more familiar with this, And you know, there's a saying that the accomplished kind of masters in Tibet, they could meditate on the entire Lam Rim in the time it takes to mount a horse. Ah, okay, yeah, I don't ride horses either, but see, the thing is, with the habits that we're trying to inculcate, right? At first, when we start, then it's very difficult. We don't have much fluency, but through repetition, doing it over and over again over a long period of time, then we get more proficient. Okay. All right. Now, Lama Zopa Rinpoche also, he recommends, and if you asked him for your life practices, he often gives a schedule for the topics in the Lam Rim to kind of go more in depth, right? So he'll give you kind of a schedule. He'll say, okay, 3 months on the so-called lower capable being, then 4 months on the middle capable being, and then 2 months on Bodhicitta, and 4 months on emptiness, or you know, something. He'll give you a schedule. Okay, yes. So in that, you can do that. If you're doing a kind of glance meditation like this, right? Then on the topic that you're focusing in on, right? You pause and you do your more detailed meditation in the context of the whole path. Do you understand? Okay. So, okay. So there's a few other ones like this. You might know the Foundation of All Good Qualities. The Lama Chupa has a longer Lam Rim prayer, 3 principles of the path. Okay. So you can also kind of rotate and do different ones at different times. Variety is the spice of life, as they say, right? But this one here by Losang Jinpa is very good. It's quite concise, and so Rinpoche has chosen to put it in this text. Okay? All right. So here, stanza 1. Essence encompassing all the Buddhas, originator of all the holy Dharma of scripture and realization, principle of all the Aryas intending virtue, in the glorious holy gurus I take refuge. Okay. So here it's probably important to say at the outset, okay? There was a meeting of all of the FPMT teachers and geshes many years ago, probably 20 years ago. And at that time, some of the Tibetan geshes, they were very reluctant to teach this section on how to devote yourself to the guru or the spiritual friend, the Lama, because they felt that, oh, if I'm you know, the teacher, and then I teach, oh, you have to see the guru as a Buddha, then I'm kind of advertising myself. I'm kind of, you know, then saying, you know, look at me, honor me, praise me, you know, like this, right? So a little bit funny. So for me, when I teach a beginner's course, and I see Natalia was in my 10-day course at Tushita several years ago, then I follow the tradition of the great Tibetan master Popa. So Popa was a Kagyu master. He was actually one of the direct disciples of Milarepa, and he wrote a text called the Jewel Ornament of Liberation, which is in a similar type of vein as the Lam Rim being the Gelugpa text. Okay. Oh, and by the way, Lam, as you know, path, Rim means stages. Okay, so these various teachings of the Lam Rim, right, it's actually common to all the different systems. So the Nyingma have a teaching, maybe some of you know, the Words of My Perfect Teacher. The Sakya have the parting from the four attachments. And here in the Kagyu, they have the jewel ornament of liberation. So all these various teachings actually were taught by the Buddha, right? But they were then arranged in the order of practice, right, by the great Lama Atisha when he went to Tibet. So basically arranging all of the various teachings in order of practice, okay? But as many of you know, and especially if you've been watching His Holiness the Dalai Lama recently, then he often quotes, even before Atisha, the great Indian master Aryadeva said in his 400 stanzas that at the beginning, one abandons the non-meritorious. In the middle, one abandons the view of the self. At the end, one abandons all wrong views. She who knows this is a scholar. So this way of arranging the teachings actually was there even before Lama Atisha. In any case, in Gampopa's text, The Jewel Ornament of Liberation, he puts this section of how to devote to the Guru, how to devote to the spiritual friend, after the middle soul, after the middle capable being, after the teachings on the four noble truths. And the reason for that is, well, as Chandrakirti says in the 70 stanzas on refuge, that the three jewels of refuge are the three jewels are the refuge for those who are seeking liberation. Do you understand? The three jewels of refuge, right? The three jewels, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, are the source of refuge for those seeking liberation. Why? Okay. So liberation is liberation from samsara, right? Samsara is the cycle of uncontrolled rebirth due to our karma and afflictions. Of the two causes of samsara are karma and afflictions. The main cause actually are the afflictions. Of all the afflictions, then the primary one is the grasping to the self, grasping to the inherent existence of the self. So if you want liberation from samsara, what do you have to do? You have to abandon the ignorance grasping to the self. How does one do that? Then one has to realize the opposite of grasping to inherent existence means the lack of inherent existence, which means actually emptiness. That's what we're referring to when we say emptiness. It means the emptiness of inherent existence. And who taught that? The Buddha. So this view of emptiness is the unique teaching of the Buddha, whereas other schools, there's the view of Atman in some of the ancient Indian Hindu traditions, but the Buddha was the one who taught An-Atman, right, or no self. Okay, so since basically this view of the self is what is identified as the root cause of samsaric suffering, then if you want to be free from that, you have to realize its opposite, selflessness. And therefore, you need to rely on the Buddha who taught selflessness. You need to rely on the Dharma, right? And here, the Dharma doesn't just mean texts, but it actually means the realization, true path and true cessation, the realization of emptiness. And then you also need to rely on the Sangha. And we're not just talking about, monks and nuns, but the ultimate Sangha is actually the Arya beings who have the direct realization of emptiness. Okay? So similarly, okay, as we then think about our own need for a guru, need for a spiritual friend, right? Then if we see the need to get out of samsara, if we see that until we're out of samsara, we're going to experience, one kind of suffering sensation or experience after another, then we see the need to search for and properly rely on a spiritual friend. Okay? And that's why Gampopa taught it after the so-called Four Noble Truths in the path of leading to liberation. Okay? So now, since I am not teaching a beginner course at Tushita, but instead I'm teaching this text that was composed, and this stanza on the devoting to the virtuous friend is first, I'm just going to teach it here, but I gave that little bit of a preface, and I'll also continue by saying, if you do not yet have a guru, it's okay. You can still recite this stanza, okay? But rather, you have to think a little bit in this way, right? When we say this verse, actually it's talking about the qualities of the body, speech, and mind of the ultimate guru being the the Dharmakaya. Okay, so the Dharmakaya basically is the enlightened mind of the Buddhas, and all of the Buddhas have the same level of realization, have the same level of attainment, have the same level of abandonment, and so forth, right? So essence encompassing all the Buddhas is the Dharmakaya. Okay. Now, the thing is, in order to directly perceive the Dharmakaya, one needs to be a Buddha. Okay. To directly realize the mind of a Buddha, you need to be a Buddha. Okay. All right. So then, all right, I'm going to get a little bit philosophical here. Okay. But we have the Dharmakaya, right, and the Rupakaya. Okay, we have these different presentations of the so-called bodies of the Buddhas, or the Kayas, right? So those of you who have been to some of my classes before, I talk about this a lot. But anyway, they have a division of the bodies of the Buddha into two, where we have the Dharmakaya and the Rupakaya. The Dharmakaya being the mind of the Buddha, and the Rupakaya, Rupa being form, okay? So the form body of the Buddha is, like Shakyamuni Buddha, okay? You understand? So although, the real qualities, right, of knowledge and abandonment are in the mind of the Buddha, since only other Buddhas can directly perceive it, this Dharmakaya, as it were, needs to manifest in a form that sentient beings, the ones who are still suffering, can relate to, can interact with, can receive teachings from. And that is the Rupakaya. Okay? So therefore, there's also this presentation of the, Rang Dun Giku and Shen Dun Giku. Okay, that's Tibetan for you. So the Rang Dun Giku is the body for one's own purpose. And the Shen Dun Giku is the body for the purpose of others. Okay? So can you guess which is the Rang Dun Giku? The Dharmakaya, right? Because the Dharmakaya, this mind that is completely abandoned all the obscurations to both liberation and omniscience, right? When one does that, all of one's own purposes have been completely transcended and accomplished. So if you really want to attain your own purpose, what you have to do is abandon the obscurations. Okay? So Dharmakaya is the purpose for the body for one's own purpose. Then the Shendun Giku, right, are these Rupakaya. that then can be directly perceived by sentient beings. Okay? So therefore, this originator of all the holy Dharma of scripture and realization then is the speech of the Buddha, you could say, or you could say is the Dharma teachings. Because how then, right, our gurus then is the originator of all the holy Dharma of scripture, means the scriptural teachings, the oral teachings that were given, okay? Then in dependence on the oral teachings that were given, the students then put those into practice and then get the realizations, okay, that's coming through the Dharma teachings of the guru. Do you understand? So therefore, the guru is the one who is the originator of all the holy Dharma of scripture and realization. Okay? Then, principle of all the Aryas intending virtue. So Aryas intending virtue is the Sangha. Okay? So principle means the main one, right? So here, just like when we do the food offering prayer, right? The Guru is the Buddha, the Guru is the Dharma, the Guru is the Sangha also, right? To all Gurus I make offering. Those of you who are in the FPMT world, you know that's one, right? Lama Sangye, Lama Chodeshin, Lama Gendute, Kungi Japa, Lama Ten, Lama Chipa, right? So it's the same kind of thing here, right? The Guru is the Buddha. It's referring to the ultimate realizations of the Dharmakaya. The Guru is the Dharma. Actually is a little bit imprecise. The Guru is not the Dharma, but here's more precise. The Guru is the originator of the Dharma, because the Guru's teachings, right, then he teaches the Dharma of scripture. In dependence upon that, we get the Dharma of realization, okay? Then the Guru is the Sangha, means the Guru, by manifesting in this form that we can directly perceive, right, then becomes kind of our direct helper, like the Sangha is. Okay? So then, in the glorious holy Gurus, I take refuge. All right. Please, Gurus, bless my mind to become Dharma, Dharma to become the path, and the path to be without obstacles. All right. So here, according to the commentary by Lama Zopa Rinpoche, this one stanza actually talks about all the three capable beings within the Lam Rim. Okay, so how does that work? Bless my mind to become Dharma. Okay, so what did we say means for our mind to become Dharma? To overcome the attachment, the clinging to the eight worldly concerns, and to, at the very least, prioritize our future lives more than this life, right? That is the main practice of the lower capable being, okay? And that's what it means for our mind to become Dharma, right? All right. Now, Dharma to become the path. Right? So here, when we really talk about the path, and we talk about, you know, in the Four Noble Truths, we have, you know, true path and true cessation. Yes? So the true path is wisdom directly realizing emptiness, okay? And that is the main sort of object of attainment of one in the so-called middle scope, the middle capable being, right? Because the wisdom directly realizing emptiness is a direct antidote to the its opposite, the ignorance grasping to true existence, which is the root cause of samsara, the root of samsara. So the middle scope practitioner, right, seeing all the faults of samsara, then wanting to be free of it, seeing then the root cause of samsara is the ignorance grasping to the self, then wants to abandon the self, therefore wants to realize emptiness directly. Okay? So Dharma to become the path, that means for our Dharma practice to become the path directly realizing emptiness. And then the path to be without obstacles. So here, the one who is totally free of all obstacles is the Buddha, right? As Lama Zopa Rinpoche often says, right? The Tibetan etymology, Sangye, right? Sang mean the complete abandonment of all the faults, all the obscurations of mind. And Ge means the complete increase of all of the beneficial qualities. Okay? So our path to be without obstacles means we only truly are without obstacles when we become Buddha. So here we're making a request to our gurus for these 3 levels of realizations to come, right? For us first to turn away from the attachment to this life alone, then to realize emptiness, and then to finally become Buddha. Okay? All right. Until I achieve Buddhahood, please bless me to be like youthful Norzang and Bodhisattva always crying, incorrectly following the virtuous friend with pure thought and action, seeing whatever is done as pure, and accomplishing whatever is said and advised. Okay. So here, it's probably just worth mentioning, like, more disclaimers that I'm not advertising myself as the guru, right? But as it is laid out actually in the Lamrim Chenmo here, see, before one devotes oneself to a guru, one has to, first identify what are the qualities of a spiritual friend. And then, as His Holiness advises, well, not just His Holiness, the ancient Indian sutras and tantras advise to check out, to analyze, to investigate a potential guru, a potential virtuous friend before you take them on in a more formal way. So it's very important to mention this, so I'll do so here. Okay, so the source of the qualities of a Mahayana virtuous friend is found in Mahayana Sutra Alamkara, the ornament of Mahayana Sutras, okay, written by Maitreya. So in that text, he says, he lays out 8 qualities for that we should look for in a Mahayana virtuous friend. So Maitreya says, rely on a Mahayana teacher who is disciplined, serene, thoroughly pacified, has good qualities surpassing those of the students, is energetic, has a wealth of scriptural knowledge, possesses loving concern, has thorough knowledge of reality, and skill in instructing disciples, and has abandoned dispiritedness. Okay? Yeah. You've all heard this before, right? Okay. But it's worth hearing again. So here, the first 3 qualities actually refer to the qualities of the so-called 3 higher trainings. The 3 higher trainings are the higher training in ethical discipline, concentration, and wisdom. Okay? So, yes, rely on a Mahayana teacher who is disciplined. That means discipline through the higher training of discipline, ethical morality, right? Then serene, right? Calm, means that their mind is trained through the practice of meditation. Okay. Thoroughly pacified means that they have trained their mind in the practice of wisdom. And so why thoroughly pacified? Because it's only through this training in wisdom, right? Means wisdom of selflessness, that one is able to thoroughly pacify the afflictions, right? Otherwise, yes, as some of you know, in the Buddha's own life story, after he left the palace and before he manifested enlightenment in Bodh Gaya, he trained with other, teachers of the time, and he could engage in these, very blissful concentrations. During those concentrations, the afflictions are suppressed; they're not arising. But once you arise from that meditation, then there's a risk that the afflictions can arise again. And in fact, they will arise again until we've abandoned them, and we only can abandon them through realizing emptiness directly. Okay. So then, has good qualities surpassing those of the students. Kind of goes without saying. If you are trying to, rely on a teacher, they should have more qualities than you, right? But for those of you who want to engage in debate, then sometimes you'll find that there are student and disciple, who are mutual student-disciple, right? So, or sometimes many of you know the great Indian master Vasubandhu, right? So it's said that he had 4 students that surpassed him in particular areas, right? So his student Aryas Vigmutsena surpassed Vasubandhu in the hidden meaning of the Prajaparamita Sutras, the Abhisamaya Alamkara, right? But so you can have a situation where Vasubandhu surpassed his student in the Abhidharma, for example, or in logic, right? But you might surpass your guru in another topic, okay? So these things happen, okay? So no fault, don't let it disturb your mind too much, okay? And then there's also a famous story in more recent times when I think it was Lama Yeshe, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, and Gelek Rinpoche. They were in Delhi, and gosh, I don't know the exact details of the situation, but in any case, Gelek Rinpoche had a lung, or the kind of lineage of a particular teaching, and Lama Zopa and Lama Yeshe didn't have that particular lineage, so they requested Gelek Rinpoche to give it to them, okay? So before Gelek Rinpoche agreed, he said, okay, well, you are actually such great masters, the both of you, and so normally I would not be, qualified to teach you, but I do have one quality that surpasses the both of you. I hold the lineage to this teaching, and you don't. You understand? So often you'll hear of Lama Zopa Rinpoche, who, is the Buddha, but there could be some particular lineages of teachings that he doesn't hold, and he'll go and seek out someone who has those lineages and get the lineage from them, okay? Is energetic. So this is, sorry, we're following the stanza here. Energetic. So yeah, especially in this degenerate age, right, where sentient beings like myself are very thick-skulled, you understand? So very stubborn, very difficult to subdue, need to be explained a different teaching again and again, yeah? So then you need a teacher who is, energetic and willing to, explain as many times as needed for it to get through this one, has a wealth of scriptural knowledge. Okay, so this is also maybe easy to understand, but you see, if you read a text like Lama Tsongkhapa's Lamrim Chenmo, you see he is always quoting these great Indian masters, be it sutras or various treatises by Nagarjuna, Aryadeva, and so forth. Okay, and so a part of that is because remember, in Atisha's time, there were these different doubts that came up, and many teachers would just kind of go around and teach what they thought without it being kind of rooted in the great treatises of the Nalanda masters or the Buddha. Okay, and so part of what Tsongkhapa's project is to show that his kind of interpretation and his laying out the path in this way actually had sources in the great, Nalanda masters as well as the sutras. Okay, so sometimes you might, hate to say, in this degenerate age, you might find teachers who are kind of teaching something, but you have to always see, is this in accordance with the source texts found in the Nalanda tradition and the sutras. Okay. Possessing loving concern. Okay, so this talks about the motivation that a qualified teacher should have. So loving concern should be, actually one of the most important teachings that he or she is teaching out of a sincere wish for the student to further their knowledge so they can be free from suffering, not a desire for fame, money, praise, and so forth. Okay, has thorough knowledge of reality. So this is the ultimate reality, the view of emptiness, and again, goes without saying that since the root of samsara is the ignorance grasping to inherent existence, right? We need to cultivate that wisdom realizing emptiness, and therefore we need to rely on both the authentic treatises like that of Nagarjuna and Chandrakirti, Buddha Palita, and so forth. And we also need to rely on teachers who are skilled in explaining these subtle and profound points. Okay, skill in instructing disciples. So here that refers to someone who can, let's just look at His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Have you been following him? In the past few months, he's been, teaching to a variety of audiences. And one thing that is very amazing, he's been able to draw various analogies. He's talking a lot about quantum physics, right? He's talking about psychology, quoting Aaron Beck, who is the the father of the cognitive behavior therapy. Yes, some of you who know this this movement within Western psychology, right? So skill in instructing disciples means to be able to use examples that fit the kind of background of the particular disciples in need. So His Holiness also then, when he speaks to, he's been invited to speak to Christian, he spoke at the Vatican and so forth. And so he is able to then tailor his message to a Christian audience. He can tailor his message to scientists. He can tailor his message to, he spoke to the London Metropolitan Police, okay? So then by using a variety of skillful means to kind of connect with various students, using examples and, level of sophistication, right? He teaches very differently to the kind of geshes in South India than he does to, the London police, right? So all this shows his, tremendous skill in leading disciples. Okay. Whereas, anyway. And then has abandoned dispiritedness. Okay. So what does this mean? So remember, when we were talking about the need for the guru to be energetic, right? Having the energy to teach the disciple again and again to get through the thick skull, okay? And also abandoning dispiritedness means, so you could find someone who will explain something again and again, but will be like, again, why don't you get this, and become kind of frustrated. Although they might explain again and again, but they'll do it quite frustrated. Yeah, that's like me. Okay. Actually, I don't have energy either. Okay, but we need a teacher who then also has the patience, and doesn't make us feel bad when we have to, be explained over and over again. Doesn't roll the eyes and all these kinds of things. Okay, so that's abandoning dispiritedness. All right. So then it says in the Lamrim Chenmo that, well, do we know anyone with all those qualities? Huh? The Dalai Lama, yes. But how often are we able to see him? How often are we able to ask him questions? Not that often, right? So in this degenerate age, it might be difficult to find someone with all those qualities. So then it says in the teaching that therefore it's okay if we can find someone with half those qualities. If they don't have half, even a quarter. If they don't have a quarter, even an eighth, right? So, but I think in the Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand, it talks about the 5 most important ones being the training in the 3 higher trainings of ethical discipline, concentration, and emptiness, and then possessing loving concern. Yeah. And I think they mentioned 5, right? And having qualities more than the student. Okay. I think so. Anyway, but for our intents and purposes, then, as His Holiness the Dalai Lama says, we should spy on the guru, right? We should check and analyze up to even 12 years before we enter into a kind of formalized relationship, right? As I like to joke, it's like dating before you're getting married, right? I know in India they have arranged marriage, so it doesn't always work, but those of you in Western countries, you know what I'm talking about. And in fact, it's very, very important to do so, because let's say for the sake of argument, you find someone and without analyzing, you jump in and get married, right? So the worst that can happen, although it's bad to break up and get a divorce, but most of the time the kind of negative consequences of that wrong choice will be limited. But if you or if someone makes the wrong choice of guru, then just like we saw, Anugilimala, right? The disciple of Buddha whose guru had said to gain liberation, you need to kill 1,000 human beings, right? You heard this story? And then because the guru is actually jealous that his student was going to surpass him, so to kind of make sure that wouldn't happen, he gives this false advice. And actually, as the story goes, Angulimala then killed 999 people. And Angulimala means finger rosary. And for everyone that he killed, he cut off their finger and made a mala, a necklace, right? And then guess who is going to be 1,000? The Buddha, right? So then there's a story about how the Buddha was walking, very slowly, serenely, and Angulimala was then trying to run after the Buddha, who was walking very slow. But as fast as Angulimala would run, would never catch up to him, and finally called out, something like, "Why don't you stop?" And the Buddha turns around and says, "Why don't you stop?" Or something like this. So therefore, he had a kind of profound realization, and later attained arhatship in that life. So anyway, if he hadn't met the Buddha and just had followed his guru's instruction to kill all these people, wow, can you imagine the karma? Definitely would have been reborn in the lower realms. And then, as Shantideva says, once we're born in the lower realms, it's very, very difficult to get out. And therefore, I think Shantideva, he says, after we're born in the lower realms, there'll be only negativity and no virtue. And therefore, you won't even hear the word higher realms for, countless eons. So therefore, this choice of the guru is extremely important, much more important than finding, a husband or wife, okay? So, be careful, be smart, analyze well. Okay, so, that's fine. You see, many of you don't know, but I've started this teaching at least 2 times in the Bangalore Center. And one time I even did it, I think, over 3 days. And I was like, okay, definitely I can finish in 3 days. So we did like Friday night, we did full day Saturday, we did Sunday morning. I got through the Lamrim prayer, okay? So now here, it's open-ended, okay? So we're gonna go nice and slow. We're gonna take our time. We're gonna do things right. And so, although we've only covered a few stanzas, then no problem, right? Right? Okay. So now I wanted to open it up for questions. I got a message from Shanti saying that if you look on the Choe Khor Sum Ling YouTube page, you can find the previous sessions. No questions. Okay. Okay. Oh, I see Natalia raising her hand.
Okay.
And then,
So,
of course, Alexander question.
okay,
Yeah, hello.
a quick one. Hi, good to see everyone. Thank you for organizing this. So it's a quick question. How do we know if we are preparing correctly? How do you know if we are not preparing to fail, but to succeed?
Ale. Well, in the context when I brought up that quote, I just was talking about having a little bit of a preparation in terms of scheduling time for our daily practices, okay? So it's like, if you don't have this plan, okay, and this is the beauty of a morning routine, right? We get up, and now my morning routine has 13 items in it, okay? So I know when I get up, I just go down the list, 1, 2, 3, 4, boom, it takes me till, you know, after breakfast, right? And then what I've been also experimenting with, I now have a kind of schedule for my day, right? Where I lay out, in this hour, I'm going to do this, right? And I also have, yeah, so I've structured my whole day, so I know what I should be doing and then at what time, right? So if you have, you know, work concerns, other things to do, see, we need to schedule in our time for our Dharma practice, right? And as long as we're doing that, then, you know, it's more likely that it'll get done. If we don't, and it's like, okay, yeah, you know what, I know I should meditate. Let's see, I'm a bit busy. Let's see if I'm evening, right? Then evening comes around. Oh, I'm so tired. Oh, I'll meditate tomorrow. And then the same thing comes. That's what I call preparing to fail, right? So actually, one of the kind of advantages and why all these Silicon Valley productivity gurus are talking about having a morning routine and scheduling your day. You know, there's this, it's called the Eisenhower Matrix, where we have activities that are urgent, important, you know, urgent and important, or not urgent and not important, okay? You understand? So most of the time we're putting out fires, right? We're doing all these things that are urgent, but the things that are important but not urgent, and here, meditating, exercise, you know, these things that are like, oh, good to do, but we always make excuses that we don't have time, right? Those, very difficult to find time if we don't schedule them in. So in my morning routine, just to share, I have my, you know, my meditation practice. I have my exercise, you know, I have these, different recitations and things that I do that I know then they're scheduled. I'm going to do. And I mean, we can also talk about this later. I'm also experimenting with, you know, I don't pick up my phone until after lunch these days. So before I allow myself to get distracted by, you know, different messages that come in, different places that are requesting me for teaching. I'm joking. Then, you know, I make sure that I've used my morning for the priorities, my study, my practice, exercise, you know, prostrations, so forth. Okay. So then for all of you, I would just, you know, ask, what are the important things that you're trying to do? I was also going to, you know, just kind of recommend, you know, you'll also see these kind of, you know, challenges. Sorry, all of you know me, so I'm going to just share more about my how I'm spending my time. So I'm in the middle of what is called the 100 push-up challenge. Okay, you know, push-ups. So then, like, it's a schedule you get on where you're like, you know, you have day 1, you do this many push-ups, day 2, right? But I've actually been doing this for some time regarding some elements of my, you know, my practice that are, you know, nice to do, important to do, but I never found time to do, right? So just like, for example, I'm now doing at least reciting the 35 Buddhas with prostrations 1 time through every day, right? I'm at least reciting, you know, chanting names of Manjushri, you know, once every day, right? So I also, if you allow me, I'd like to challenge all of you to come up with one thing that you can now add to your daily practice, okay? And it can be small, right? Yeah, maybe at the least doing this whole, you know, transforming suffering life into happiness. But others of you, maybe you want to start doing Vajrasattva. Maybe some of you want to do prostrations to 35 Buddhas. So, you know, do something small, and then schedule that in. And every day you do it, you're building up a new habit. Another thing I'm doing, I now have, I'm using this app to-doist, okay? It's a to-do list, okay? And so I'm like checking it off as I go through the different practices, right? And so that also helps, you know. Then when I get down, you know, to the end of the day, and it's like, oh man, I have five things left. Do I really want to, you know, recite King of Prayers? Okay, I'll do it, you know? So that's what I mean.
Thank you.
I see Shanti Y has raised her hand, or is there another question?
Okay, how do we know the Dalai Lama has all those qualities? Hello? Can you hear me?
I heard you. So your question was, how do we know that the Dalai Lama has all those qualities?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, yeah. So it depends who you mean by we. So maybe we don't know. So this is actually important to say, and thank you for the question. You see, even though, you know, I say, or Lama Zopa Rinpoche says, or everyone in the whole world that you meet will, you know, say, oh, His Holiness is, you know, Avalokiteshvara, and make all these, you know, big praise. It's up to us as individuals to do our own checking, right? And so there's a saying by the great Kadamba masters that the blessings of the guru are neither big nor small, but depend on the disciple. So the question actually isn't whether His Holiness has these qualities, but the question is, can we see those qualities in His Holiness? You understand? Okay. So to do that then, right, you take it on as a hypothesis. Okay, I've heard about this, you know, Dalai Lama character, right? Let me now listen to his teachings, okay? Let me, you know, read some of his books. Let me put into practice some of the advice and teachings that he gives, okay? Yeah. And, you know, over a long period of time, you can check, are his explanations in accord with the, you know, books that you're reading? Is the advice that he's been giving beneficial to your mind? Are his, you know, actions that you can see and perceive, are they kind of in accordance with the teachings that he's espousing, right? And so over a longer period of time, this is what is meant by checking out the guru, spying on the guru. You can then reach some level of confidence that, okay, yes, I think, you know, these teachings are, you know, in accord with the other teachings I'm reading about Buddhism. I'm seeing that his actions are in accord with the principles that he's espousing, you know, and then gradually you can get into a deeper relationship, spiritual relationship. Thank you. On the other hand, you know, there's many people, maybe not with His Holiness, but, you know, they'll say, okay, this, you know, oh, your guru, yeah, I have respect for him, but I just can't see myself getting into that kind of student-disciple relationship with him, and that's fine. You know, all of my gurus aren't going to be all of your gurus, and vice versa, and that's fine.
Okay, thank you for that.
Venerable Shanti Yajnik has a question. Shanti Vai, can you please unmute yourself?
Yeah, okay. Venerable, thank you for the teaching. And I'd like to know that the ultimate guru you said is the Dharmakaya. So that is including the Rupakaya or just the Dharmakaya?
The ultimate guru is the Dharmakaya. Then, oh, sorry, should I expand? That was your question, so I answered your question.
I said, does it include the Rupakaya or not?
No, it does not.
Because sometimes when you say, anyway, Dharmakaya, it includes Dharmakaya and Rupakaya.
Okay, look. The ultimate guru is the Dharmakaya. The ultimate guru then, to benefit sentient beings, has to manifest in a form that can be directly perceivable and, sentient beings like ourselves can interact with, okay? So therefore, the so-called conventional guru would be like, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, or even the direct students of Shakyamuni Buddha, right? Shakyamuni Buddha would be the conventional guru of Shariputra, right? Hello.
Yes, Venerable. And one more question. Why are they called conventional and ultimate? Like, is it real ultimate and convention is just like nominal, or why are they, what is the reason for those words?
So, okay, for the Buddha jewel, right? For the Buddha Ratna, yes, they have the ultimate Buddha jewel and the conventional Buddha jewel. The ultimate Buddha jewel is the Dharmakaya, right, and the Svabhavakaya, actually, both the wisdom truth body and the nature truth body. And then the conventional Sangha jewel is the Rupakaya. Sorry, the conventional Buddha jewel is the Rupakaya. And in that explanation is just what I said, because it's ultimate because it can only be perceived by other Buddhas, whereas the conventional Buddha jewel of the Rupakaya can be perceived directly by non-Buddhas. So the other word for conventional is like kind of worldly, can be perceived by the world. Whereas the Dharmakaya can only be perceived directly by other ultimate minds. The ultimate mind, like the best mind, is the Dharmakaya. So the Dharmakaya is the only one that can directly perceive the Dharmakaya. You understand? So I think the conventional guru versus the ultimate guru, I haven't heard or seen explanation in the text, or if I did, I forgot. But it seems to me like it would be the exact same as the Buddha. Okay, next question.
Thank you, Venerable Namjong. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear? Okay. So I have few things that are not clear to me. That first you said that when you wake up, you said about the mantras of blessing the mala, but then you start to do about prostrations, and you do like multiplying mantras. So it's not clear to me when you're using these mantras that in a book. So because when I look in the book, it's quite different mantras here.
Yeah. So that, okay. Sorry. So yeah, should I answer that?
Yes.
Okay. So right when I wake up, then it's the mala to bless the mantra to bless the mala, and the overall increasing mantra. Om Sambara Sambara Bimanasan Ma Javahum, right? And Om Ruchira Mani Pravatayahum. Okay? So I do those 7 each. I bless my mala, put my mala down. Then it's prostration time. So then before the prostrations or in the prostrations, there's also the prostration multiplying mantras.
Okay, I have another question about
Yeah.
So do we have any visualization when we do this booklet? So we started to like with few stanzas, but in general, like what we do some visualization in accordance with the text, or just we read the text?
Yeah, so his question, in case some of you can't hear, he was saying, he was asking whether when we do this practice booklet, then is there a visualization with it? Okay, so in my opinion, I think it's good to do a simple visualization. So you can do the so-called visualization of the all-encompassing jewel, right? So you can visualize your guru in the aspect of Shakyamuni Buddha in the space in front of you, right? And thinking that Shakyamuni Buddha in the aspect, your guru in the aspect of Shakyamuni Buddha then encompasses all three jewels of refuge. Because part of this, right, you're doing a requesting prayer. You're saying, please bless me. So who are you asking? Your guru.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Mm.
A question from Dilshad. Dilshad wants to know, what can I do to get interest in Dharma practice in this and future life?
Well, you know how His Holiness always, well, most of the time he starts his teaching. He always starts from the beginning with the fact that all of us want happiness and want to avoid suffering, right? And then when we look at, our lives and the condition that we're in, yes, there is some happiness and well-being that comes from material development, but material development alone is insufficient to bring the kind of lasting true happiness that we're seeking. And therefore, we need to do something with our mind, because the mind is the lens with which we experience life, right? And then when we look at what then to do with our mind, we then see that the afflictive emotions like anger, jealousy, so forth, they, even forgetting about future lives, they cause us a lot of trouble in this life, right? And therefore, even forgetting about future lives, we need to do something to then work with and deal with our afflictive emotions. And on the other hand, the positive aspects of the mind, like tolerance, patience, compassion, and so forth, help us in this life. As His Holiness the Dalai Lama often says, if you want others to be happy, practice compassion. If you want to be happy, practice compassion, right? So just thinking, I guess, from the standpoint that, we want to live a better life, this life, then we can see that we need to, do something with our minds, train our minds to accentuate our good qualities and reduce our bad qualities. Okay? Now, you with me, Dishad? Okay. So then the Dharma, at its essence, are the techniques by which we do that. Okay? So when you say, what can I then do to get interest in Dharma, we just, I would first say, just reflect on your human condition, reflect on your life, and see how much of your life would become better if your mind became better, right? And then put into practice whatever levels of teachings you can to improve that. Now, if you then start talking about Buddha Dharma, right? So that what His Holiness often is describing is the kind of like universal human values and, you know, secular ethics and some of the things that he's doing now, right? But when you start to talk about Buddha Dharma, then, well, as I said at the beginning, that, you know, the unique feature of Dharma is this teaching on selflessness, right? And therefore, you have to do a bit more study to see what is actually unique about the Buddha Dharma and why then it's kind of worthy of your interest. And therefore, you need to get into the teachings and study, particularly about the two truths, the Four Noble Truths, right? And then when you get some sense that, oh, yes, this is a kind of teaching that is, you know, makes sense to me, is in accord with reality as I have seen and I have analyzed, right? Then we have to then make kind of strong dedication prayers, actually, that in life after life, we come to meet with these teachings again and again. And that in particular, we meet with the Dharma teachings when we're young, right? And we don't have any obstacles for practicing Dharma. There's a dedication prayer by Lamson Kappa, the prayer for beginning, middle, and end. Yeah. And he describes some of those prayers that we need to make so that we meet Dharma when we're young, we have no obstacles to our practice and so forth. Okay?
We don't have any more questions, I guess.
Okay, great. So, we can end the session now, and we'll do so with a dedication prayer. So, as we were saying at the beginning, we set a very positive motivation. We tried to sustain that motivation through the session, and then at the end, we dedicate our virtue so that the positive energy that we've created in our time here together ripens or manifests in the best way possible. And what's that? That all sentient beings, vast as the vastness of space, quickly be freed from all the oceans of samsaric suffering and attain the state of enlightenment. So please think that due to the merit that we've accumulated here tonight, that comes to pass. We also dedicate all the merits that we've accumulated here, as well as all the merits accumulated in the past, present, and the future by ourselves and all the sentient beings and all the Buddhas for the long lives of the spiritual friends and for all their holy wishes to be accomplished immediately. Then let's also dedicate for, all the merit accumulated in the past, present, future by ourselves, as well as the numberless sentient beings and numberless Buddhas, that all of the disease, all the various economic problems, all the problems due to natural disaster, all the problems due to climate change, any undesirable thing never happens again in this world or any of the worlds from now until the end of samsara. That's it for now. Okay. So I would encourage you, I want to give you homework, but it's one step below homework. So I strongly encourage you to start doing this practice on a daily basis. And also, if you can identify something small that you can add to your practice, even if it's, one mala of Om Mani Padme Hum or whatever you want to do, right? or one thing, you know, that's on my to-do list, and this might be up some of your alley, right? I have on my to-do list to do something kind to others, right? So then when we, you know, we start our days like this, but then before we go to bed, then just reflect on the day and say, oh, you know, I talk a lot about bodhicitta. What did I actually do that was kind to others, you know? So then it can be something very small, you know, like washing someone's dishes, reciting a mantra to a dog, right? Feeding, you know, giving food to others, calling a friend that, you know, we haven't spoken to in a while. Many things we can do to be kind, okay? So, okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Go ahead, Shanti.
Thank you very much for the precious teachings today, Namjong La. And we look forward to hosting and receiving many more teachings from you. Thank you very much, Venerable. Thank you everyone for joining us today. We have a few publicity announcements, please. So if you wish to be on our regular CKSL mailing list, do drop us an email with your contact details. You can email us at info@cksl.in. I'll put the email address in the chat box below. The upcoming programs, Tuesday, July 28th, from 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. India time, we will have part 2 of Venerable Tenzin lecture class, Tuesday teaching series. And on Sunday, August 2nd, Venerable Namjong La will lead part 2 of this brand new series, Transforming Suffering into Happiness. So you will soon get more updates and the details on these 2 programs and many more upcoming programs. So please stay tuned. One last announcement, please. As most of you may know, Choe Khor Sum Ling has been offering all its courses and programs for free. It is only the kindness and the donations that we receive from students, well-wishers and friends that have sustained the center all these many years. So although CKSL is currently non-operational because of the COVID situation here in Bangalore, the center must still pay rents and overhead. Please do consider donating to CKSL so that we can keep the center active, request teachings from our very precious teachers at Sarah J, host teachings from other great Buddhist masters, and thus we are able to continue our efforts to bring Buddha Dharma to you and the multitudes. No matter how big or small the donation amounts are, we are extremely grateful for every penny received. Thank you, good night, good day, and see you all soon. Thank you.